So hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to have an opportunity to say a few words, and I'm only going to talk briefly because there's been a lot of talking at you, and you all bring so much unique perspective and insights into these issues, so it'll be fun to move into the reception for more conversation. I want to first thank Keith for this partnership. We began the conversation about this event many months ago, and so it was fun to have conversation about what we were envisioning here today and the types of conversations we wanted to have. I'm really pleased. I thought this was a terrific day, and I certainly learned a lot. Thanks to you and your team. This is really terrific. I want to thank the panelists and the moderators, Chancellor Haddon and Martha. We learned so much from all of you. Thanks for sharing some of your insights with us. And then thanks to everybody here for spending the day with us. This is a long time sitting together, but it's been, I think, a terrific conversation. I just want to reflect, Martha did a nice job reflecting on some of the insights from the conversation. I'm just going to highlight a few things. For me, one of the values of a day like today is first to start with remembering, and these are points that were raised throughout the day, how important this work is, right? Higher education, we're here because we believe higher education matters, and this is a time when not everybody gets that, right? And so coming together and remembering that, looking at the data, seeing the economic benefits, talking about the social and civic benefits, really, really important. It's also really important to keep in mind the data that show us how unequal it is in terms of getting access to high quality higher education. And this time last week I was presenting at the National Press Club on our annual indicators of higher education equity report with the Pell Institute, and it's not getting better. On many of these indicators the issues are getting worse, right? The extent to which all people have the opportunity to go and complete college is a really persisting problem. The students who are here today brought those data to life. These are real people who are working hard to try to figure this out. And we have an obligation for those of us who are trying in all of our different capacities to not only describe what the problems are, but think about solutions, right? We need solutions. It's not easy, but it really matters. Our students are persisting through all kinds of adversity. We have an obligation to figure out how to create structural change and system transformation. Borrow some words that have already been said today. So this was a great opportunity, I think, to learn about some different programs, how and why they were established, whether and how they're working. Clearly, lots more needs to be done. So for me, one benefit of today was to think about, well, what else do we need to do and what else do we need to know? As Martha said, one size isn't going to fit all, and so that makes this complicated, and it's going to continue to be challenging. One of the purposes of the volume that Ed and I put together was to think about, well, what do we know about some of these emerging programs? And there's still a lot more, as Michelle said, so much more that we need to know. But I think if we think about the questions that we need to keep asking, that's one way to make it less overwhelming and to try to focus our work as we go forward. So clearly the most important overarching question that I think we tried to think about as we thought about this day and was mentioned repeatedly was, how do we design programs to increase equity and access to high quality higher education? The second related is, access is not enough, as we talked about. So how do we increase equity and degree attainment? How do we design programs to recognize the needs and characteristics of different groups of people living in particular places? Who's benefiting from the programs that we're creating, and who's not, and who should be? What are the eligibility criteria, and what are the implications of those eligibility criteria, both intended and unintended consequences? So part of why I'm interested in this work is because it seems like this is an opportunity for us to build on, Martha's called this a movement. It seems like a movement. There's a lot of activity. So how do we take advantage of that, really to think about the broader change that has to happen if we're really going to make a difference on these issues? So how can we think about how to not only have the financial award, but also the other types of supports that people need in order to succeed? how do we leverage what's happening to stimulate the types of comprehensive change that really creates that pre-K into the workforce pathway that Martha mentioned. And that requires paying attention to the ways in which we continue to lose students as they move from K through 12 to higher ed, and as they try to transfer from community college into four-year institutions. And then how do they transition into meaningful jobs? How do we think about the roles of all the different players that could be making a difference on this? So federal and state government, local government, K through 12 institutions, higher ed institutions, business. And then how do we promote political and financial sustainability? And then, of course, as the researcher, I want to end my questions around the data and evaluation, right? So how do we think about data and evaluation at all stages, the design, the evaluation, and the change? And so this is part of the challenge as we're doing research on these programs. They're changing in a changing world, but how do we think together about how we can really understand what's happening and then make some sort of judgment about what's working and what's not working? So an additional benefit from today is the sharing of colleagues who have these shared goals but different perspectives. And so we've had a wonderful series of panels on this. As we move into the reception, I hope that you will be able to stay a little bit longer, connect with each other. I know this is a really diverse group of people with different perspectives, and I hope that you can continue the conversation. So thanks again for joining us. And so thank you.